Hey, I'm Grady.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Charisse.
And welcome to Highlights, your officially unofficial stop for All-Star 7 information. And before we break down the scoreboard and the legendary legend stars for each contestant, we're going to break down this entire episode and find out how we got there. So let's get into that real quick. Previously on All-Star 7. Last week's episode was Legendary Legend Looks, where RuPaul is the legendary legend in question, unsurprisingly. And the queens were tasked with choosing one of 8 iconic, in quotes, iconic looks from RuPaul to recreate or pay homage to, providing inspiration to new looks that they create from scratch. And there are several other looks that I wish were on the list, both comedically and just in general, because I think some of these were odd choices, but we'll talk about that in a second. So, no mini challenge. We get right to presenting the looks and the choosing. And each person who chooses then gets to choose the next person who chooses. Does that make sense? So Vivian gets to choose first, being the one who won last week, and she chooses. What did she choose? She chose the Despy Awards look that Ru wore, that gold number, and then she chooses Trinity next to pick, and she chooses RuPaul's season 8 look, the baby blue promo look. Trinity then, in terms of their alliance, chooses Monet, who chooses, and I was kind of surprised she went this route, but she chooses the Face Kini look, which I was also surprised was on the list.
I can't believe this was on the list either. Oh my goodness. I mean, as far as like iconic, I would call it notorious.
Right.
But if we're putting this on the list, I almost feel like that one face mask thing from the first COVID pandemic should be on there.
I agree. Ru's
I almost wish
stranger.
It was.
No stranger to a Face Kini when in a
no
jam.
Stranger. No.
Whenever Raven's not around, Face Kini. Monet then picks Shay to choose, and she chooses the season 5 Sugar Ball look, the pink leopard print dress that RuPaul wore specifically to impress Bob Mackie. Shay then chooses Jada, who chooses the 2000 Divas tribute to Diana Ross look, which is a super awesome gold number. Jada then chooses Evie, who chooses the supermodel of the world, which I was kind of surprised she picked that one. Evie then chooses Jinx, who chooses the Drag Race Down Under look. And last, once again, chosen last. And I don't know if this is because they were worried because she's the main designer in the room, but Raja gets picked last and she gets stuck with the Born Naked kind of torn up mini dress look. Thoughts on these?
So I think Raja gets chosen last for 2 reasons. One, because she's obviously the clear designer in the room and would slay any fashion challenge. And 2, I don't think Raja has that like really strong like Kiki bond with anyone else in the group like all the other girls seem to. And I think this is also why she got chosen last time. And I think those 2 culminated into her being chosen last again, which kind of sucks because she didn't get to pick the look that she really wanted.
I definitely think she lacks some vulnerability a little bit, and she definitely likes to kind of be the chill, quiet one most of the time. Where Jinx, let's just go there, because Jinx does this thing in the workroom where she's kind of annoying intentionally. Like she just kind of forces herself into everybody's bubble in some way, in very kind of like in a very aggressive manner. And so I think in some ways then she kind of forces some bonds to happen because she's just very social. She doesn't really care. Where Raja, I think, tends to stay in her lane, be very focused on what she's doing. and remains very professional all the time.
And Raja does a lot more of her thinking and processing in her head.
Uh-huh.
Whereas Jinx and I kind of process out loud. And if you just happen to be around us, I'm really sorry about it. But like, you're going to hear the whole thing. Not quite as annoying as Tyra around the workroom. You know what I mean? But like, still, if I get stressed out enough, I will start giggling hysterically just because I would rather do that than cry. And my body is just like, I can't believe this is happening, right? And so my options for like relieving the stress are usually crying or laughing. And so like sometimes I'll just start giggling in a cackling kind of way.
Yeah, and Jinx has a full mental breakdown this episode. Like, I don't know what she was processing something. She's crawling all over Evie's table. She's doing like ass to mouth stuff.
And Vivian just like continuing to work next to it.
It was
like,
so
unfazed,
much.
just
It was so
going
much
about my business.
She's screaming everywhere. She is laughing like the Joker everywhere. She then makes a bodysuit for a 9-year-old and tries to put it on, and then is devastated when she can't get it over her thigh.
She recovered okay though, and
she did.
Evie did give her an option, whereas in other seasons, queens aren't necessarily that up front in the editing as far as like, hey girl, you could try this on your next go round.
Yeah, that's true. All Stars is always interesting on design challenges because nobody wants to be eliminated, or in this case, blocked. So everyone's real helpful on All Stars as opposed to a regular season.
No, for sure. But the one, honestly,
Trinity.
I figured the face Kini was going to be the last one picked. I cannot believe
I did too.
That Monet chose third and chose the iconic, notorious look of the face Kini. Like, I was like, Monet, oh my gosh. Like, I may have been kind of hard on you so far this season, but please don't do this, Monet. Oh my gosh. Like, I was so worried for Monet and Jinx, like just like terrified for them this episode during this entire part.
Yeah. I was really surprised Evie didn't want Born Naked.
Yeah, it's so much more her like style and up her alley.
It's easy to craft. It's her brand.
Or uncraft.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I was just really surprised by it. Jinx even, like, I could see Jinx choosing it for the same reason. It looks like something you could hot glue or just rip apart and put on. I don't know. Very interesting choices here. I think people definitely wanted to take risks and go big or go home.
Evie wouldn't even have needed to put a zipper in. She could have just tied it on. I'm not saying what we'll get into that later, but yeah. She could have just tied it on.
So getting to the main stage, Ru's look, I thought was rather nice this go around.
I liked it. I liked the pink. I liked the gold, whatever it was that went down the middle off to the side.
Like chain.
Yeah. And I think she normally does look really nice in that color pink though. Pink is a really pretty color on her.
Ru does look fantastic in that pink. She looks fantastic in pink and blonde hair. Like, just amazing.
But
the chain detail wasn't necessarily for me. It kind of read a little cheap. I'm not gonna lie. But while we were watching it, I did notice that you and Michelle were both like, and I was like, oh, it might be kind of Jersey. Maybe I'm just like not into. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little more subtle. I don't know.
You heard it here first. Charisse hates RuPaul. Anyways,
Betsy Johnson, though.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, Betsy
Johnson is my new favorite casserole of crazy. She's just crazy in several different ways, layered on top of each other. I've never seen her before. This was my first. Yeah. Her outfit was crazy. Her personality, crazy. She didn't know where she was, I'm sure. But she was amazing. I loved every bit of it. I wish she was there all the time.
Make her a permanent judge.
It was so good. And her hair is freaking awesome. All right, let's get into this runway. So, legendary legend looks of RuPaul. First, we had Evie Oddly, who took her look, which was, again, the supermodel of the world, and turned it into pants with like tulle sleeves or something, which then kind of ended up looking draped over her instead. I really liked her pants. The pants were fun. You could tell she spent the most time on the pants. And because of her skill set, it probably took her a very long time to create the pants. And then everything else felt really rushed on top.
I did not live for this look. I agree. It looks like she spent most of the time allotted on her pants. And then rewatching it today, I think that it may have been different if she had chosen a different kind of wig. Just to tie it to the look a little more. I know it's supposed to be inspired by the legendary look, but it was kind of so far, aside from the red tulle, I really wasn't getting the look. And then the wig just threw me off a little bit. This was not my favorite look on the runway.
I will say that this runway overall is what I live for. Like each season, there's like one or two runways where I'm like, oh my God. Like every single person that comes out. And absolutely, Evie's was not my favorite of the evening. I'm glad they started with her and that there was a progression. But her pants were amazing. The top definitely felt a little rushed. But I really liked her interpretation. If maybe she had been able to finish. I don't know if her and Trinity maybe aren't that tight, because Trinity definitely helped Shay with some stuff. No judgment. But yeah, I really liked Evie's interpretation. She did know that she bit off a lot. I'm not sure. It didn't really give me supermodel of the world. And maybe that was it, Zach. Maybe that was the wig for sure.
Okay, so next up we have the Vivian, who took her Despy's look and pretty much did the same thing on the top half. And then went a little wild on the bottom.
So RuPaul's has like a bow tied, and it actually looks like a bow. When the Vivian walks out, I legit thought it was a witch's hat.
I did.
And then the more I looked at it, it looked like bunny ears. So for the 3/4 of her runway, I didn't even see the bottom because I was like, what the hell is on her head? Like, I was trying to decipher what she did. I was like, are you trying to do like a character? Like, what is going on? I mean, she looked cute, but it really wasn't. It was not my favorite either. I did not like this one. And the bow looks so bad. It just like, it was so distracting when we watched it. I could not look at it. It was awful. I couldn't, no.
I totally have to agree with you. I got Playboy Bunny. Like
yes.
from the old Playboy Bunny restaurant or whatever, their nightclub. So the other thing was, whereas I didn't get any supermodel of the world from Evie Oddly, I basically felt like this was kind of a carbon copy of the Despy Awards.
Next up was Shea Coulee, who took that season 5 leopard print sugar ball dress and turned it into one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
This was everything.
Yeah.
The original dress was everything. I love the original dress from the season 5 Sugar Ball. I love that dress when RuPaul came down the runway. Oh my goodness. What Shea did with this was magnificent.
Yeah. I love everything about it. And she hand painted those spots, and you can't tell she painted them. You can't tell that she made this the day of. This looks like something that was made for her. And it looks like it comes from the same collection as the dress that inspired it. But it's completely different, which is really good. Next up was Trinity the Tuck, who took the season 8 promo look and turned it into a full gown. I loved it. I loved that gown. And the fact that she made it and also helped people finish their outfits for like 4 other people. So impressive.
She was like the fairy godmother back there. Not only doing a full gown, but then helping everyone else out. And this was gorgeous. Like the amount of detail on this gown.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. Like this was amazing.
Because she also had to sit there and stone it, which she did.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
And everything just looks so crisp. Like the bow on the front. Like it did not look rushed at all. Like you would never have guessed she made this in a couple hours or in a day. Like this was fantastic.
I love this look more than the original. This is just amazing. I cannot believe she made this in a day or whatever. And honestly, Trinity was another one who on her season was so driven. I didn't really feel like I got to know her very well until like All Stars a little bit. But this season, I feel like I'm getting to know her really well. And her work ethic is outstanding. Mm-hmm. When I compete, this is the type of person that I want to compete against. I want to compete against the best. I want to compete about somebody who lives, eats, drinks, breathes what we're doing.
Next up was Raja, who took the Born Naked look and went to Coachella with it. I was really worried as she was making it. I will say it looks better on. It's very crazy. But I still liked it. Is that weird?
No.
Biased.
So when she showed Ru her Thunderdome like concept for it, I was like, oh, this is gonna look really cool. And then when we saw it on the mannequin, I was like, oh, what? It's kind of like when you go shopping with a girlfriend, you're like, well, let's see it on. I'm like, let's not.
No, for sure. I liked it for sure. And Raja understands how certain materials are going to move when they're on and how they're going to look even when they're standing still. And this looked wild on the mannequin. Like this looked messy. This looked like Jiggly Caliente in that Saint Tropez boat, whatever for Pride. Like that, I was like, oh my God, this is not happening. Like she is literally putting everything on there. And there are other seasons where the queens in the design challenge literally put everything on there. And sometimes it comes out really well. And sometimes holy trash. But this, I liked it. It wasn't my favorite. I felt like it's kind of close to the original, but yeah, it was almost like Raja does Glastonbury or Raja does Coachella or something.
Next up was Jinx, who again was supposed to be Drag Race Down Under. I'm not sure where this was going. I'm very fascinated by it.
Kind of like Evie, didn't really get a lot of the Down Under promo look.
No.
I dislike this for a couple reasons. First, I think you pointed out great. Like she always does like a character when and I feel like she does the character the most when she's least confident in the look she's presenting. And boy, was she playing it up on stage. So she didn't like the look. The makeup, I don't know why she chose to do the makeup the way she chose to do her makeup, but it was like,
and the lips,
it was
specifically.
Yeah.
The lack of. There were no lips. It's like she forgot.
But if she was like, going to go for that small little geisha look, that needed to be brighter. You could barely see it.
It looked like Ben de la Creme was like left out in the snow overnight and got like frostbitten all over her face. Like it was just, I wasn't feeling this look. Yeah, and was dead. Yes.
Next up was Jada Essence Hall. And she took the 2000s Divas look, and I loved this so much.
This was gorgeous,
Even though she said she was going to look like a Muppet or something like that, she does not look anywhere near a
She has to
Muppet.
talk like one. But
I love her in the confessional.
Yeah,
She's
she's great.
So fantastic.
She's hilarious.
She looks so beautiful in this runway. Like, I love the way that she sees the world, and I love the way that she turned this.
all right, guess we're done with her.
I mean, it looks good. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
There's not
It
really anything to say.
does. It looks good, but it wasn't my favorite. I'm glad it was your favorite because I love me some Jada. But Shay is definitely one of my top picks for this week, for
Oh,
sure.
same. Yeah, she's.
We haven't
Mhm.
got to my other one yet.
Next up was Monet Exchange in her face kini look, which I have to say was better than any face kini outfit RuPaul has ever worn.
This one I really liked. I really, really like this look.
Mm-hmm.
This look was amazing. I was so scared for Monet. I was like, I'm not sure about this at all. And when she walked out, I was like, oh my God, this is the only way I ever want a face kini done for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Art, beautiful, fantastic. Just Monet, hands down, is my other favorite. Monet and Shay were robbed this week.
I don't know if it needed the hat that she spent so much time making,
It
but I will
needed it.
say for not making a hat before,
It looks really good.
yeah.
Hats aren't necessarily the easiest thing, especially if you've never made one.
For sure.
But it adds that proportion, because if it was just like her bald head,
Yeah.
it would have looked really, I think it would have looked really weird. So it adds that extra dimension, and then with the feathers in the back, I think it really tied it all together.
For sure.
Monet, Shay, and Trinity were my top three. I love this look. I thought this was really cool.
People who placed high this week were Shay, Trinity, and Monet. Oh, and Jada placed high as well. Top two, in fact, is Jada and Trinity.
I'm happy with that. Although I think Shay really deserved a top 2 slot.
I do too.
I'm not upset about who was chosen because I think they both did very, very well. But Shay's look was just so good and so polished. Like,
Mhm.
I thought it was really good.
Absolutely, Zach. I'm totally with you. I'm not mad about who was selected for the top two, but I definitely feel like Monet and Shay were totally robbed this week. I feel like the two of them should have been lip syncing. They were both just pieces of art. That's what I watch Drag Race for, to be inspired by the amount of creativity that this person has in their body and brings to the runway.
Okay, so then they have to lip sync to I Want Love by Jessie J, which definitely sounds like a Trinity-ish song right out the gate. And it's definitely not the Beyonce song that they both got last time, because they both were up there for the ball challenge. So I definitely expected Trinity to do much better with this against Jada. That being said, they both performed really well, and I half expected them to just give it to both of them. Trinity ends up being victorious, wins $10,000 and the power to block. And after stalking the stage for a little bit, she chooses to block Evie Oddly. Do you agree?
I agree that was an absolute waste of a block. Okay, so everyone, and we talked a little bit about this when we watched, right? Like, she keeps saying like, oh, she's on this upward trajectory, blah, 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 blah. It's like she had one good episode
Right.
after doing terribly the whole season. This is not an upward trajectory. That's a fluke.
And
She was given a star and then she won. Like, that's within the
Right.
same episode. That's not an upward trajectory. That's a lightning striking twice. Like, that's
Time for top tweets. And getting into the scoreboards, so cash prize winnings. Jada wins $10,000. Not Jada. Who won? Trinity. Trinity won $10,000, her first check of the season, believe it or not. Even though she's won several challenges, she has yet to win a lip sync. So this is her first big swing and home run. So that's really good for her. The people who don't have any money at all are Raja, Evie, and Monet, surprisingly. So, because certain people placed high this episode, we get some ties in our point totals, so the standings get a little wonky. But Jada now is in first place. Crazy, because she's the only person with 3 stars. Even though she only has 2 challenge wins. Jada is doing what Monet thinks she's doing, if that makes sense, in terms of strategy. So Jada is actually flying very much under the radar, being very social, building her relationships, and has yet to be blocked, even though people have pointed out she hasn't been blocked. And she's being very diplomatic when people point that out, where she's like, well, one of my stars was earned. I'm not really doing that great. Don't block me. Jinx is now in second place. She's got 2 stars, 3 challenge wins. Trinity tied for second place with her, 2 stars, now with 3 challenge wins as well.
The queen seemed really surprised about how many stars and how many blocks everybody had when they were dishing everything out and untucked. There was definitely this group conversation that needed to be had that added a little bit of drama to the room and some tension for sure.
Yep. This bumped Evie down to third place. Raja down to fourth place. Monet also tied for fourth place. They have the same stats now because Monet placed high this episode. Vivian and Shay also, believe it or not, have the same stats now as well. They're dead last in fifth place. Crazy.
No.
I know.
No.
Crazy.
Shay.
Shay's being very overlooked, I think, on some of these challenges.
Absolutely. I think so too. No, for sure.
Has to be frustrating for her.
Because she's been performing well.
Yep. And that's what's getting hard, is even looking at the points. Nobody, I guess because now we're halfway through, but nobody's really performing bad necessarily. It's just a lot of people now are middle ground where there's some really strong standouts.
So I feel as if Jinx is a little bit of teacher's pet because she does so much vaudeville, and RuPaul really likes the performing aspect of the live performance, doing it well, doing it right, singing, dancing, what have you. That's what RuPaul did when she was early in her career. And then she spends a lot of time with Raja. I feel like they spend a lot of time together. And I feel like Raja definitely gets more praise than Shay. And I feel like Shay is a better performer in a lot of different aspects than Raja is. But Raja's runways save her every single time.
They do. And it should be noted that Raja did know Ru prior to Drag Race existing.
Thank you for that.
Because Ru, when Ru would go out into the club scene and stuff like that, because Drag Race wasn't a thing, not that she had a permanent gig, but she would appear at clubs and do appearances, and Raja would be performing, especially with the Dream Girls review that's here in LA, where Delta work and some other places. Also Tammy Brown. So Tammy Brown also knew Ru prior to Drag Race, which is why I think Tammy was so quick to be able to snap back at Ru that very first season, because she's like, we've done brunch.
Right.
But yeah, so when Raja says like she's Aunt Raja, if Ru is mother, she's not really lying because they actually go way back.
So for some reason, I could feel there was some sort of backstory relationship. I just thought it started in season 3 when Raja won. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because there are certain queens that definitely get overlooked for what I feel like they should have higher praise for their runways and their performances in the challenges and stuff.
Yeah. And Raj is also very close to Raven still, and they work together a lot. And Raven's now very close to Ru. They're very close friends because Raven works for Ru. She's with Ru all the time. So there's definitely like a little circle that's there and has always kind of been there. But this is crazy. I mean, these stats are all over the place, episode to episode. It's crazy how the stars change so much, and how someone performs week to week changes so much.
And I don't know about you guys, but it makes it kind of even harder to follow with the winners edit, because normally on a normal season, you can kind of ascertain how someone's doing in the judges' eyes by the critique that they get. But because it's so edited and it's always so positive, it's really hard to get a feel for where they stand with the judges and how they're doing in the competition, because everything's so positive.
Yeah.
I get a better idea when it's just the squirrel friends and they're critiquing it that way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I'm done with this. Well, if you would like to check out any of our past or ongoing coverage of All Star 7, you can find that right here on the PG Media channel. Subscribe today so you don't miss out. You can also follow us on social media. That information is in the description below. And we'll be back next time to cover next week's episode. And with that being said, as always,
thank you for watching Highlights.
And we'll see you next time.